You know the scene. It's late, you've got your headphones on, and you find yourself queuing up that song. Yeah, the one that just gets you right in the feels. But have you ever actually stopped and asked yourself, why do we do that? I mean, why on earth do we go looking for music that sounds so sad? It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? We spend pretty much our entire lives trying to avoid feeling down, but when it comes to our playlists, it's like we just can't get enough of the melancholy stuff.
Well, it turns out this isn't just some weird little quirk we all have. It's a real psychological paradox. And thanks to some really cool research, we're finally starting to get some answers about what is actually going on inside our heads when we press play.
Okay, so the first big piece of this puzzle comes from a study that really dug into the difference between the emotion a song seems to be about and what we actually feel when we're listening to it. And here is the absolute key to the whole thing. There's a gap. A song can have all the telltale signs of tragedy, a slow tempo, a minor key, but that doesn't automatically mean it's going to make you feel tragic. So let's break this down into two big ideas. First up, you've got perceived emotion. Think of this as what your brain recognizes on a technical level. It hears those slow, sad-sounding chords and goes, okay, got it, this is a sad song. It's basically just reading the label on the bottle. But then there's felt emotion. This is what you actually experience inside. It's not the label on the bottle, it's the feeling you get after you've taken a sip. And this is where that whole paradox really comes to life. And the difference is, well, it's huge. The study found that even though people perceived the music as tragic, what they actually felt was something else entirely. Things like romance, peacefulness, even bliss. So they could recognize the sadness, but what they were experiencing was way more complex and actually pretty pleasant. The researchers have a great word for this: ambivalent. It's not one single pure emotion, it's a mix. You're acknowledging the tragedy in the music for sure, but you're also feeling this wash of beauty or nostalgia or just calm. And this brings us to this really cool idea called vicarious emotion. Music basically gives us this safe little playground to mess around with some really big feelings. We get to experience the essence of sadness, but without any of the awful real-world stuff that usually causes it. There's no actual breakup, no loss. It's all of the depth with none of the danger. So that kind of explains what's happening in our brains, but it doesn't really explain who is most drawn to this feeling. And as it turns out, our own personalities have a massive part to play. Yep, there seems to be one key personality trait that acts like a volume dial for this whole experience: empathy. Our ability to understand and share what other people are feeling seems to be right at the heart of why we enjoy sad music. But empathy isn't just one single thing. Researchers break it down into 4 different parts. There's empathic concern, which is that feeling of compassion for others. There's fantasy, our ability to get totally lost in a story. Perspective taking is being able to see things from someone else's point of view. And finally, personal distress, which is more of an anxious, self-focused feeling. Now keep those 4 in your head, because they're about to become very, very important. Okay, lab studies are one thing. But what about in the real world? How does this actually play out in our daily lives? Well, one brilliant study decided to look for answers right in our listening habits. So get this. Researchers got their hands on an entire year's worth of Spotify listening data from 290 students. We're talking nearly 2 million songs. And they compared all of that listening data to how those very same students scored on that 4-part empathy scale we just talked about. So, to make sense of that mountain of music, they used a classic psychology model. Every single song was mapped out based on 2 things: its valence, is it positive or negative, and its arousal, is it high energy or low energy. This neatly sorted every track into one of 4 emotional buckets: happy, angry, sad, or tender. And the results? They were crystal clear. The people who scored high in empathic concern, fantasy, and perspective taking, well, they listened to way more music from that sad quadrant. Their real-world habits totally backed up the theory. But hold on, because this is where it gets really interesting. The researchers didn't just look at what people liked overall. They looked at the flow. They analyzed the journey people took from one emotional state to the next within a single listening session. And here is the kicker. High empathy people weren't just passively ending up on sad songs. They were actively choosing them. The data showed they were way more likely to switch to sad music from any other emotional quadrant. This wasn't happening by accident. It was a deliberate move.
So, what does this all tell us? Let's zoom out and put all these pieces together.
It's really a three-step dance. First, the music expresses something tragic. Second, our brain does this amazing little flip, turning that perceived tragedy into a complex and actually pleasant vicarious feeling. And third, our own capacity for empathy is what drives us to seek out that emotional workout in the first place. The scientists actually have a name for this whole thing: the pleasurable compassion theory. The idea is that what we're really enjoying isn't the sadness itself, but the act of feeling compassion. The song is just the trigger for our own enjoyable, compassionate response. When you get right down to it, sad music is like an emotional gym. It's a totally safe place where we can exercise some of our most profound human feelings: compassion, tenderness, connection, all without any of the real-world risk. So, the next time you find yourself reaching for that melancholy playlist, just ask yourself this: are you really looking for sadness? Or are you looking for a moment of connection with the artist, with the music, and maybe, just maybe, with the most compassionate part of yourself?